This is the sit mount, and here I'm gonna explain you really step by step, starting super easy, how to do that extremely complex move. Hi, I'm Sam, and I've been teaching slacklining for over 15 years, and I'm gonna put all my knowledge into this tutorial so that also you will be able in future to mount slacklines. We're gonna start on the ground. So put a slackline underneath your feet, take an even ground that is comfy to sit on, place the front foot straight and place the back foot slightly rotated outwards onto the slackline. And here a little warning. If you are not flexible enough in your knee, and if you feel a sudden pain in the knee, please stop right away and start doing some exercises to get that knee more flexible. One typical thing is the sit position. So every day for 2-3 minutes, get into that position, work a bit with your knees, and at one point you should be flexible enough. So now, if you're one of these people, you don't have pain, but you still have a hard time to get the center of gravity onto your feet, then simply sit on something. Maybe take a little book or so. Like even 1 centimeter makes a monster difference. It will help you a lot to get onto your feet. So instead of trying real hard and starting to have a weird technique, try to have a super nice technique and just cheat a bit with the height of your butt. So now let's do an experiment. Try to completely straighten your back and bring that foot as high up as possible. And now try to relax into the position and bring that foot up as high as possible. Can you feel the difference? It's much easier with a rounded back. And here I also want to explain a little additional thing, because some people, they bend the back at the wrong place. So again, let's go back to these bones I explained before, the tailbone and the sit bone. So try to go on the sit bones and then rotate your pelvis onto the tailbone, onto the sit bone, onto the tailbone. So if you're not used to that, do that a few times so that you understand which muscles you have to activate. And then you want to be almost on the tailbone with a rounded back. And now you're much more free with the leg motion. So this is going to be super important on the slackline when you try to bring the legs onto the line. And now this distance here is limiting to stand up. Imagine I'm like here with the feet and I'm trying to get over the feet, it will not work. So I need to minimize the distance between the heel and the butt. And to do so, I'm not pulling my foot towards my butt, but I'm doing exactly the opposite. So as a first exercise, you can try to pull your butt, bring the feet to the front, and simply slide across the room like that. So this is the start position, and now you can kind of roll onto your feet. So that's gonna be the next thing. You wanna start leaning backwards, throw everything to the front so that your center of gravity ends up between both feet. And can you see what I'm doing with my chest? As soon as I'm here, I open up my chest. I'm not yet pressing up, because if I press up too early, what happens is this. That's a typical beginner mistake, to straighten the legs too early. So first you want to get between the feet, and once your center of gravity is here, then you can stand up. One important difference between doing that on the ground compared to doing it on the slackline is the position of your back foot. The position I end up in when I'm on the ground is that I'm standing on my toes. On the line, however, I'm gonna end up on my heel with the toes pointing downwards, like this. Same as on the ground, when it goes downhill, it's much easier. So even better than a completely straight line to learn the sit mount is when the line goes downhill, when the anchor points are not on the same height. But if you have a completely level line, what you can also do is just having your butt closer to the anchor point, because the line has this kind of shape, so it's still going to be a little bit downhill. For the choice of slackline, I recommend a Slacktivity Allround Slackline. It's 35 millimeters wide, and if the slackline is too wide, your foot placement will be imprecise. Later on, switch to a narrower slackline to be even more precise. But for the first tries, the Slacktivity Allround Slackline is simply a great pick. And now let's have a look at the placement of the butt on the slackline. So you have these two sit bones plus the tailbone, and you want to sit on the line on a sit bone and then like let it slide towards the middle. So if you look at it, I'm sitting on my sit bone now, and now I'm falling into position. It snaps a little bit when I'm doing that. Tack. And doing a sit mount is a move that you shouldn't try for 1 hour in a row, because your butt will not like it. It will start hurting, and your skin will eventually get used to that. No worries, it's completely normal that it's super painful the first time you try it. If it's too painful, put on maybe some bike pants or put some padding on the line, wear long, sturdy pants, whatever you feel like to protect your butt, but eventually your body will feel completely all right with this motion. So back to the position. I'm now sliding into the good position. Now I'm sitting on my left butt. When I'm sitting on my left butt, I want to have the right foot in front. I want to be diagonal. Or of course, if I'm sitting on the right butt, I'm going to have the left foot in front. And from now on, it's going to get difficult for your balance. It's completely normal that you're going to struggle even with just one foot on the line. And there are two possibilities. Either you start with the front foot or you start with the back foot before then placing the second foot onto the line. So whichever method you prefer, I'm just gonna explain my favorite one here. So I'm gonna start with my front foot on the line, and now centimeter by centimeter, I'm gonna lift this knee higher and higher. So it's not an all or nothing move. It's really step by step, you go higher, 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 higher. And the higher you go, the more challenging it's gonna be for your balance. And once the foot is higher than the line, you can place it down onto the line. I see many people, they just want to get this foot as fast as possible onto the line, and it's like something like that, and then they fall down. What I often see when people start with the closer leg on the line already, and they lift the front leg onto the line, that they only go as high to hook the toe onto the line, instead of going high enough to then really place the entire foot onto the line. So really train your balance. Even though it might take a few days longer to get there, take your time, try to develop a really nice and clean technique, and to then feel really comfy sitting on the line like that. And now, as a reminder, I don't want to sit with a straight upper body, but I want to chill into the position. And when rolling with the pelvis on the line, you might feel some weird pain at the beginning because you squeeze your muscle. It's completely normal. It just takes a few times, a few minutes, maybe also a few hours of training to get used to that, to still be able to activate the necessary muscles. So don't get intimidated by the pain. Just make short sessions, 5 minutes each time, continue the next day, and eventually it will work out. Okay, now I'm sitting comfy on the line, and I want to lower down the distance between butt and heel. So you remember this exercise? We're snaking to the front. It looks stupid, but it's a really, really great exercise. And once you're comfy here, you can get some momentum, dive between the knees into that position. And if the knees are hanging downwards, it's going to be much easier to balance. When you're like this, it's super difficult. So round back, I dive through the knees, and I go into an upright upper body with the chest pushed out. Most typical mistake I see here is people engaging their legs too early, and they're like, wow, it's impossible to stand up. No, you just push too early instead of letting your legs relax. And once you're in the middle of the feet with the center of gravity, then push up. Like this. Once you're here, push up. One last thing I want to show you here is if you're struggling with getting onto your feet, there is the option to pull here. So bring the hand to the front between the knees, give a little pull. And when giving that pull, don't leave the hand for too long here, because it's super difficult to balance when you hold the hand here. So go fast, give a little pull, and go back to the balancing position. Back. And stand up. I hope this explanation helped you to master the sit mount. If something is not clear, just write it in the comment. I'm happy to answer and to help you further. And I hope to see you in the next tutorial. Enjoy your time on the slackline. See you soon.